It's 2 o'clock. This is the Committee on Economic Development and Emerging Technologies. I'm with my co-chair, Chairman Parasella. Today, we're going to hear Senate 2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. Just a couple housekeeping items. Reminder that this hearing is being conducted in a hybrid manner and live streamed on the Mass Legislature website. Remarks are being recorded and will be available to the public. Individuals are asked to limit testimony to 3 minutes. We have a lot of people that have signed up to testify, and we want to be respectful to every single person to have the opportunity to testify. So we do ask you to limit your testimony. We are allowing panels to speak up to 6 minutes. Everyone is also encouraged to submit written testimony. And yes, we actually do read it. Individuals who signed up prior to the start of the hearing are testifying in person will be called before those who are joining remotely. And at the discretion of the chairs, we also will be taking legislators out of order. Same day signups will be called at the end, time allowing. We actually have a fixed amount of time here in this hearing room. And those teams, those joining via team are asked to leave themselves on mute until they are called upon to speak. So right now, I'll turn it over to my chair, Chairman Parasella, to introduce the members of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to introduce who the House members are of the committee. They are Andy Vargas, who's the Vice Chair, David Meridian, who's the Ranking Member, Brian Ash, Brian Murray, Ted Phillips, Jessica Giannino, David Beal, Bud Williams, Kathy Lenatra, Kip Diggs, Joe McKenna, and Marcus Vaughn. Thank you.
And on the Senate side, we have Vice Chairman Liz Miranda, members Joanne Comerford, John Cronin, Adam Gomez, Sue Moran, Patrick M. O'Connor. Okay? So we're going to start off. Once again, we all also asking people, if you like what you hear, that's fine. If you don't like what you hear, please keep your comments to yourself. We're going to start off with the Mayor of Everett, Mayor DeMaria.
Good afternoon, Chairman Feingold, Chairman Parasella, and committee members. I'm joined today with Matt Latanzi, Director of Economic Development, and Jay Monty, our Transportation Planner here in the City of Everett. My name is Carlo Di Maria, and I have the honor of serving as the Mayor of the City of Everett. I'm appearing before you today to offer my support for Senate Bill 2692. There are some people who would lead you to believe that this bill is about a soccer stadium, or that it's about being driven by a professional sports organization, but that is misleading. This legislation is about the financial harm that Everett is already suffering from the dwindling value of an outdated environmental nuisance. The need for this legislation began over 3 years ago when representatives from Constellation Energy, formerly Exelon, informed me that their site in Everett essentially was going out of business. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission had ruled that the remaining stations 8 and 9 of the former Mystic generating site will not be needed to supply energy to the grid as of May 2024. As a result, Everett will lose $55 million in tax revenue between fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 26 due to the loss of value from this parcel. We have already lost $28 million since the TIF expired in fiscal year 20. We need this legislation to help pull Everett back from the harm this loss of revenue is causing our community. Because we are already losing revenue, we can't afford to wait several years under the coastal zone management process for a new use. That's what this legislation is about. It's about our community. I think it's important that you know more about Everett when you are considering a bill that is so important to us. We are a comparatively small community, but what we lack in real estate, we make up for in pride. We have families that have lived here for generations who are struggling to keep their homes. and we are one of the communities that continues to attract new residents because of the diversity that flourishes in our neighborhoods. Our residents are hard-working people. Many work multiple jobs to make ends meet. They rely on public transportation. The food pantry we still operate well past the worst days of the pandemic continues to be relied upon as a source of relief. Some of our older residents tell me that the senior meal delivery program that the city still runs is the only reason they are able to eat multiple meals each day. When I talk about the loss of revenue and the need for this legislation, those are the real problems that we are trying to solve with this bill. If you look around at the communities surrounding Everett, they have experienced a massive amount of new growth and development. It's true that a picture can be worth 1,000 words. That's our waterfront. And look across and look at Boston's waterfront, and Somerville's waterfront, and Cambridge. And that's ours. It's pretty obvious in the images I brought with me today that the skylines of our neighbors clearly show the disparities that exist between the opportunities other cities have enjoyed while Everett is still fighting to emerge from its former industrial past. Everett needs the same opportunity to redevelop this area that surrounding communities have already enjoyed, like the Seaport in Boston, Assembly Row in Somerville, and Kendall Square in Cambridge. What we are asking for is economic equity for our environmental justice community so that we can get rid of the dirty industrial uses that we have had to live with for too long, and the chance to bring in desperately needed new growth. We also need this legislation because the history of my hometown has shown that it takes well-financed private interest to clean up former industrial sites that need costly environmental remediation. The former Monsanto chemical plant.
Mayor, if you could consider.
We're going to speak for the six, right, the three of us.
Okay,
They're gonna-
okay.
I'll take it the whole 6 minutes. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I'm a little, I
Okay.
spent a lot of time writing this, and
Okay.
I
Please
just wanted
continue.
to give you a clear picture of why this is so important.
Okay.
The former Monsanto chemical plant was a perfect example. The site sat vacant for decades. The federal government didn't come clean it up. The Commonwealth didn't have the funds to clean it up. We absolutely had no way for Everett to clean it up. It sat empty for 5 decades, 50 years almost, maybe even longer. A private company had to come in and spend $1 billion to do that. We are facing the same situation with this parcel of land. The only hope that Everett has to clean up this site is for a private developer to come in and pay for that to work. And the DPA restrictions hurts our chances for that. The DPA restriction requires waterfront areas to be used for commercial purposes in maritime commerce, which are projects that are industrial in nature. Everett has borne the burden of industrial uses long enough. These uses restrict public access to waterways, and that goes against the work that Everett has done with the key environmental stakeholders to increase public recreational access to the Mystic and Malden rivers. To be clear, this bill seeks to remove the DPA restriction for this parcel for a specific limited scope. This bill was not filed with the intention of denying our residents or other interest parties the opportunity to have a say in the future of this site because all those opportunities will still exist. At the local level, this project will still require site plan review before our planning board. This is a public process. At the state level, the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, or the MEPA review process, will be triggered. The public comment periods under Chapter 91 of the Public Waterfront Act will apply. Public notice and comments are mandatory for licensing of any project on tidelands, including filled tidelands. Non-water dependent projects also require a public hearing. I would argue that this legislation and the potential to introduce a less commercial and industry-based use increases the ability to expand public access to a revitalized waterfront area. And while a cleaner, more accessible waterfront is a significant benefit of this bill, this is not the only positive outcome. This bill will give Everett the chance to remove one of the last pieces of our outdated industrial past. It will bring in new jobs for our residents. It will give us the chance to try and leverage private development to help the Commonwealth advance public transportation that will have a regional benefit that extends beyond the borders of Everett. And so, I'm here today asking for your favorable consideration of this bill. I'm asking for this bill so that an actual proposal for a project can be introduced and vetted with multiple opportunities for public comment during state and local review. I'm asking for this bill to be able to prevent the crippling loss of revenue from the power plant from doing further harm to our residents. The residents of Everett have waited long enough. Please don't ask us to put our future and the well-being of our residents on hold any longer. And I understand I only had 5-6 minutes. I could go on, and I could speak a little more about the city of Everett and the needs of our community. I think you all know we're a gateway city, we're an EJ community, we're the only city in the inner core not connected by transit. We're the first city to put bus lanes in. You know, I'm looking to bring the Silver Line in, commuter rail stops, the pedestrian footbridge over Assembly Road. With the development of this site, we can leverage all those things to help our community grow. Build more housing for our residents, build some affordable housing for my kids, my children who are 25, who are struggling trying to find a home, right? Those are the things that we want to do in the city of Everett. We have lots and lots of land in this area. I implore you all to come to the city area and check out this area. There's about 300 to 400 acres of land between Exxon, the power plant, District-Gas, National Grid, Sprague sites, all empty parcels of dirty industrial lands that's just sitting on the waterfront that should be and could be redeveloped. And we're going to leverage this development to build that transit to encourage more development to come to our city. Harvard Kennedy School did a study on this area. You should look at that study if you can. I can get it to you all. I would love to meet you all there at the site if you want to tour the area to get familiar with this site. But we're just asking. You can do it, right? This body can do it. You can move this site from DPA to allow us to really move our city forward.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time. I'm sorry for taking.
No, Mayor, listen, we understand. We understand. Any questions for the mayor?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate your passion. There's been some discussion about whether or not a soccer stadium is the best use for that site. Could you explain why you think that would be the best use for that site?
I think it's going to take someone well-financed to be able to clean that site up. And, you know, I think you looked at the former Monsanto site. They spent $100 million to clean the site up. You're probably looking at similar cleanup costs at this site. So I've talked to people in the housing business. I've talked to people in, you know, commercial office space and lab and tech and all that. They just say the ROI is not there for them. It's not something that it's doable. Just to clean that up, to go through the process, but to get it cleaned up, it's not feasible, especially for housing and no one, you know. So that's the biggest reason. I feel that if you know, I mean, you have someone like, you know, Steve Wynn, right, who came in, or the Wynn team, they came in, they ROI, they could do it, right? They could spend $100 million to clean up the Monsanto chemical plant, because they were gonna run a different type of business. This is that same thing. I feel that you know, there's no other industry that's gonna come here, it's gonna spend that money to clean that up, and you know, a soccer stadium that's gonna hold concerts and have the venue space to do many other things. Will have the resources and the ability, and they're well financed, right? They can get it done. They get it cleaned up and build something that's going to be beautiful. And no parking. There's no parking spaces. I told them, no. If we go forward, there'll be no parking there. We're gonna rely on public transit. We're gonna build out the transportation system, and how I'm gonna leverage that to build a transit system, so then I can leverage the rest of the city. So we can build more housing with zero parking. Right, we can get residents using bus lanes to run bus lanes on Rutherford Ave, to connect Everett to the Silver Line. Connect Everett to I'm trying to go quick here. Connect Everett to, you know, North Station with a turnaround at Haymarket. You know, Secretary Pollard told me a long time. Think out of the box, right? If you put bus lanes on Broadway, Everett, you can do them on 99, Melrose and Malden, and you can bring them up to Route 1. You can take thousands of vehicles off the roads, off the Tobin Bridge, and bring them into Boston on buses. We have to connect to Boston. This is what we're going to do. I mean, and we're going to do it with a developer who's going to have to spend the money to improve that area, right? I mean, you have Encore that owns the land. They're involved in this. You know, we're going to leverage that to get this, you know, to get this site cleaned up. I mean, no one else is going to do it. Mark my words. I've been born and raised in Everett. I drove by the Monsanto site my whole life. 50 years, 60 years, empty, dirty, contaminated. Nobody wanted that site. Was beautiful on the water, right? No one ever came to me and said, I want to build some housing there. I want to build some office buildings there. Nothing. No one ever came to the city. I've been mayor now for 17 years, 16, 17, since 2008. Nobody ever talked about the Monsanto chemical plant. No one's talking about reusing the power. No one's come to me and said, hey, we'd be interested, because people come to the mayor all the time, interested in different sites. No one has ever come to me and said, oh, this contaminated power plant, this is a good location for our, new office building. You know what I mean? There's no transit that connects there. So I mean, everyone talks about, like, we've negotiated no deal with the Crafts yet, right? This right today, as you know, I just want to remove this from DPA, so then I have the ability to entertain a proposal. And yes, they want to build a site there, and I'd like to see them build a site there, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, here you go. No, you're going to have to invest in public transit. We're going to connect this site to the city of Boston. I want a one-seat ride into Boston.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then we can, get the Exxon sites, another 100 acres, right? And you have all these different sites that we're going to be able to really connect the city of Everett to Boston and change that.
Any other questions, panel?
Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah,
I think you did. We're joined by Vice Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Miranda are also with us as well. Mayor, thank you for your time and your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Brian, no, Sal doesn't want to go. Brian Belillo and Dan Krantz from New England Revolution, the Craft Group.
Chair Feingold, Chair Paracella, Vice Chair Miranda, Vice Chair Vargas, and members of the Joint Committee on Economic Development and Emerging Technologies. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of S2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. We appreciate the legislator's time and willingness to clear a path forward for future development and economic improvement opportunities in the city of Everett, and we hope this will be the first of many discussions with stakeholders and officials at the local and state level as we determine the feasibility of the proposed site for a stadium that could serve as a catalyst for environmental rehabilitation and provide new public waterfront access to the region. We're here today not to disrupt any kind of process, but rather to begin it. The passage of this legislation would be an important first step in putting forward a comprehensive project proposal before our partners at the state and city of Everett to consider through MEPA and Chapter 91 processes with input from surrounding communities. My colleague Ted Fire will speak more to that just in a minute and lay out exactly what those processes are, but we know there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot needs to happen before we can get to the stage of shovels in the ground, including the removal of a derelict power plant and its 4 smokestacks on the site. We welcome the opportunity to explore if it's feasible to develop what has been a rundown, unused site for a long time and turn it into an economic driver for the region. The materials we provided include representative visuals of the site and what could be, and I'm pleased to walk you through them today. The first page of the handout shows the parcel as it stands today and stood for decades. From a development standpoint, this is not a good site. There's many challenges caused by the previous use, and large portions of this parcel are not developable due to strong easements to accommodate the electrical grid infrastructure, which must remain in place. We believe if given the proper opportunity, a proposed soccer stadium would begin to clean up this region in drastic need of rehabilitation, as well as pave the future for development options, including possible clean energy initiatives for the area. Our goal today is to show you that what could be achieved on this site if the DPA is removed through this legislation, which you'll see on page 2 of the materials is a very small portion of the overall DPA. What exists on the site as it currently stands is essentially a brownfield site that is in dire need of cleanup. And we think we can transform it into something great, primarily accessed through public transportation that would bring economic development to the region, including creation of about 1,000 permanent jobs and between 1,500 and 2,000 construction jobs. And I'm proud to say we have signed agreements with the trade unions, Unite Here, as well as IBT, so that this building could be, if approved, union built and union operated. Page 6 of our handout shows an illustrative rendering of what a soccer stadium could look like on the site. This is by no means a final design, but given the wide array of constraints on the site, we wanted to ensure that a professional soccer stadium could fit on the site. We're able to show here that we can fit the soccer stadium on the site within Chapter 91 guidelines in a manner that allows for an approximate 4-acre public park with waterfront access for transportation and allows Eversource to maintain and expand the grid, paving the path for new energy initiatives in the future. It is our expectation that a majority of fans will use public transportation, as they do with most urban stadiums, including new options for getting to their destination via water transit. We hope to host concerts, events, in addition to soccer matches, and community events to be good partners with Everett and the surrounding communities. We believe all parties involved want to do what's best to receive the best output for what this site could be. We are aware of this unique nature of this legislation, but we believe this is a unique case. Let me be clear that we're not looking to avoid public process here. This isn't the starting line for us. This is just us trying to get to that starting line. Thank you. And Ted is here Dan's here just to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? I just have one quick. So do you think you could operate this without parking? That's interesting.
Yeah, if you look at urban stadiums in general, there's very little parking needed. The reason why we are moving, and I get asked this question a lot, why would you move from Foxborough to a place like Everett? We're trying to get the stadium and our club to public transportation. And what we hear the most from our fans is they want to have public access to the stadium. They want to have public transportation. So for us, public transportation is the entire reason why we want to be up in Everett and Greater Boston.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have Ted Fire, Michael Scott. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Feingold, Chair Parasella, Vice Chair Miranda, Vice Chair Vargas, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of S 2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. I'm Ted Fire, Vice President of Construction and Development for the Kraft Group. With me today is Michael Scott, co-managing partner from Nutter. As Mayor DiMaria and my colleague Brian Bolello, President of the Revolution, made clear, it is our intention today that today be the first of many discussions in the public realm regarding the viability of a soccer stadium on the subject parcel, which currently sits in a designated port area. Our goal is to discuss the project with you today and then, if given the opportunity, go through the appropriate Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, or MEPA, and Chapter 91 permitting processes, in addition to the public processes laid out by the City of Everett and other relevant communities and agencies. Passage of this legislation is critical because the designated port area currently prohibits the stadium from being built on the site, and there is effectively no way to modify the DPA for the purpose of the stadium without this legislation. We wanted to assure this committee that if the legislation passes, the public in no way will be excluded from having the ability to review and weigh in on the proposed stadium. Rather, removal of the site from the DPA allows a traditional, rigorous process to start, and the document that we shared today lists a number of the public reviews that will be undertaken. All aspects of the project will be thoroughly vetted through the appropriate city and state agencies under the MEPA process that will include Mass DOT. Through EEA and its agencies, it will include the study of coastal resiliency, sustainability, energy conservation, transportation, and environmental justice, to name a few. It will go through an extensive Chapter 91 process and will be subject to approvals at the city level through the City Council, Zoning Board, and others. And again, there are no members of the public who will be excluded from this review process. Through this effort, we look forward to engaging with stakeholders and our partners in the local, state, and federal governments, as well as other relevant agencies and surrounding communities, in order to determine the feasibility of this site and explore whether or not it can be developed to build a public park along the waterfront with access to that waterfront, a stadium to host community events, soccer matches, and concerts, and potentially provide connections and space for clean energy projects. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and we're hopeful that the committee will see fit to recommend passage of this legislation.
Very impressive, right on time, 3 minutes. So we really appreciate that. Any questions from the?
Just had a,
Good,
yeah,
Chair.
thanks. Just had a quick question. There was some public comments about some of the surrounding communities not having had a lot of input in this proposal. Can you explain what kind of input they will have going forward?
Sure. I'm not sure how familiar the committee is with the MEPA process itself, but that certainly opens everything up. Any documents we submit for comment by any community, any individual, and we would fully anticipate that all the surrounding communities would weigh in on that. And again, it touches on all the aspects of the project: transportation, clean energy, coastal resiliency, things that we've heard about. And if given the chance, we'll design things, get it out there for folks to review, and we'll take their comments into consideration for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jamie McNeil.
Good afternoon, chairs and members of the committee. My name is Jamie McNeil. I'm the general agent for the Hospitality Workers Union, Unite Here Local 26. We represent about 12,000 workers in the various hotels here in Boston, the convention centers, Fenway Park, Encore Boston Harbor, college, university, cafeterias. We're here today in support of this bill. Just not to repeat everything that's already been said, when I was working on the referendum and in support of the Encore Boston Harbor, one of the things we heard from many of our members in Everett and residents who weren't members was exactly the question you had, Chair, and why a stadium and why there? And I think the mayor outlines the question and the answer pretty well. Unless there's some significant, massive amount of money coming from the federal government or somewhere else, some money tree we can shake, there's nowhere else we're going to get the funding to clean up the site, get rid of that power plant, and provide good jobs. So I just want to make sure that not only we support because we have a partnership here, but for the folks who are probably, maybe not today, but who today are having a picnic at the Encore Boston Harbor on the grass, on the green there, where there was a pretty dirty site. For those folks, that is the answer. There's very few folks who can pull this off, and there's very few folks who can, to your question, Chair, get to yes with the surrounding communities and partners. And so we have full confidence that all those concerns will be met. And we thank you for the time today. And again, we are in support of this bill.
Any questions? Thank you for your
Thank
testimony.
you.
Councilor Sharon Durkin.
Just want to recognize Representative Diggs has joined us. Rep. Lenatra as well. Hello.
Councilor.
Hi. Thank you so much, Chair. I'm City Councilor Sharon Durkin, representing the West End, Beacon Hill, Back Bay, Fenway, and Mission Hill. I'm just here to advocate for Boston having a seat at the table in these conversations. I think it's been noted that the foot traffic and congestion that would be caused by this project would fall most heavily on Boston. I also appreciate the economic opportunity that an additional stadium can provide because I'm the city councilor for both Fenway Park and TD Garden. I'm also the city council's chair on planning, development, and transportation. And I'm here to advocate for Boston having a seat at the table. And I also wanted to mention the host of things that we would consider or bring up if Boston did have a seat at the table. Want to bring up parking at the stadium. It's been reported that there would be 75 spots in the MOU. And because I'm the city councilor for Fenway Park and TD Garden, I can tell you they have a lot more parking. And I can tell you that the crowd that goes to, for instance, a game at Fenway Park is not the same crowd that comes to a different type of show. So making sure that you're allowing for all types of uses is really important of what could potentially take place at the stadium. Mass transit. I think the closest stop would be Sullivan Square. We need investment in the T. This is a mile away from the stadium, and walking would be dangerous currently across Sullivan Square. The MBTA would need additional investment. And additionally, if there were simultaneous events both at the Garden and the stadium, it would be a nightmare for traffic on the northern, from the northern portion of the commuter rail. The only commitment I saw in the MOU made towards mass transit is saying that they would study pedestrian infrastructure from Sullivan Square to the stadium. I think we need a little more details there. And just adding, the Encore Casino has their own plans for expansion, and I think that should be at the forefront of the conversation within the committee. I am not an expert on any of these things because I represent Boston, and I've only done so for 8 months. But I'm heartened by the use of union labor on this project, and I want to thank the proponents for that. But it's really important that we have a seat at the table. I represent half of the North Washington Bridge, and I know what it's going to look like when residents, because I represent Fenway Park and because I represent TD Garden, I know that people are often willing to take the ticket and take resident parking if they are, and the ticket is less than parking cost. So to ask residents to bear the burden of something that is not being provided by the proponent, I think that's incredibly important. But again, I'm honored to see folks in labor here supporting this. But I think if we're not at the table, we don't have a say, and so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any questions? Counselor Katie Rogers?
Hello, Counselor Katie Rogers from Everett, Massachusetts. I'm here today to speak on behalf of our waterfront property. I am a fifth-generation Everett resident. I was recently elected to the City Council, and throughout my whole life, we did not have any access to our waterfront property. In fact, I didn't even know it really existed. So throughout the years, there have been some recent developments which have engaged those areas. However, there are some missing components, and for far too long, Everett hasn't had a seat at the table in terms of development and opportunity. For far too long, we have been sort of a barren wasteland for things that Boston didn't want to take on. So we've always been sort of using our waterfront as a factory and industrial area, polluting our water. So it's only in recent years that we've had any access at all. And I want to ensure that any development that happens on that property is able to adhere to the guidelines of Chapter 91, and that we are able to develop that land for public use and have the same opportunities as all cities in Massachusetts. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Arthur Jameson?
Good afternoon. Chair Parasella, Chair Feingold, and honorable members of the committee, thank you for having this hearing today. I would like to also recognize members of the Boston delegation that serve on this committee, Senator Miranda and Representative David Beal, who's not here today, I gather. My name is Arthur Jemison. I'm the Chief of Planning for the City of Boston. I'm here to comment today on Senate Bill 2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. As we all know, these parcels on the Everett-Boston line would be removed from the DPA designation for a New England Revolution soccer stadium and event venue. Mayor Wu and our administration believe strongly in the importance and benefits of regional economic development and of opportunities to build community through strengthening sports, arts, and entertainment. The mayor's been hoping for a Rev Stadium in or near Boston for a long time, and the potential of a men's team, professional team, having a home directly accessible for Bostonians would dovetail nicely with the city's exciting progress bringing NWSL team to Boston, sharing a home at historic White Stadium, which would be entirely renovated for Boston Public School students, athletes, and the community. We do not have enough information at this time to comment directly in support or in opposition to the project, but we'd like to share some relevant considerations that Boston is closely monitoring. Over the past few months, we've heard concerns from community members, climate organizations, and transit advocates that are moving one bit of land from the DPA designation no matter how important the project, highlights questions about the overall DPA process run by the state's Office of Coastal Zone Management. We support calls for from the climate advocacy organizations for a holistic approach to our coastline which is facing more intense storms, flooding, and the impacts on residents. Whether included in the legislative conversation or separately, our region must act in coordination to protect and improve our coastline and our waterfront neighborhoods. With regard to the proposed stadium specifically, as we understand it, the siting and orientation of the proposed stadium, along with the reported plan not to include significant parking on the site, will mean that Boston, and most particularly Charlestown, will bear the brunt of transportation and related impacts. This area is one identified as needing significant transportation infrastructure, changes for traffic flow, accessibility, and basic safety. We're very familiar with this with the recent completion of Plan Charlestown, a comprehensive neighborhood plan for the Charlestown neighborhood, which was recently passed last summer. The project would also rely on the Alfred Street Bridge as a pedestrian connection to Sullivan Square, which is currently not safe as a major pedestrian thoroughfare. Last December, a pedestrian was killed at the intersection of Dexter and Alfred. My agency, along with our colleagues in BTD, Boston Transportation Department, spent considerable time mapping out what would be needed to change congested and dangerous transportation conditions. To date, neither the mayor or I have heard from the leadership of the project. We're not yet in a position to comment on the possibilities for mitigation. It's clear, under any circumstance, Boston needs to be at the table to guarantee the impacts on our residents, public transit, traffic, and climate are to be addressed, and to create the conditions for safety and accessibility that would be necessary to realize the potential economic development benefits for the project. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Once again, Arthur, right on time, so we appreciate that.
Trying to get there right on time.
Any questions? Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Chris Gordon?
Thank you, committee members. My name is Chris Gordon. I'm the president of Wynn Resorts Development, part of Wynn Resorts. We developed the Encore Boston Harbor. We're also the owner of the Mystic Station, which is being considered today for the stadium, and the owner of land holdings immediately north of the site as well, up and down Broadway. Wynn Resorts is pleased to be a significant part of the local and regional economy, employing thousands of union workers, spending hundreds of millions of dollars each year on local procurement, and paying significant taxes to the city and state. We work closely with the mayor of Everett and the local elected officials to do our part in redeveloping the Lower Broadway district and acting as an economic catalyst for the broader greater Boston region. We're supportive of removing this parcel from the designated port area and the eventual development of the sports stadium. We purchased the site several years ago specifically to attempt to facilitate a positive transition from this disastrous environmental situation and stigma into something better. The power plant in its current state is a hindrance to progress, an environmental mess, and a significant image problem for Everett. Sitting at their front door is a stark reminder of the environmental and economic injustices that have plagued Everett for generations. The proposed stadium is a constructive solution to decades-old problem. Much of the original coal-burning power plant stopped operating in the 1950s, with more closing in 2003 and the last unit turning off in 2021. Yet nothing has happened to improve the site since those first units stopped burning coal 70 years ago. A private entity is interested in cleaning up the site, opening up the waterfront for public enjoyment, engaging with in the local community, and creating a landmark tourist attraction. This kind of opportunity does not happen often. I have personal experience with the redevelopment of many brownfield sites, including Encore, as well as a well-known Superfund site, and the redevelopment of such sites normally advances at a snail's pace, full of litigation and taxpayer funds. This proposed project is an unusual case where the tangible plan is within reach and the stakeholders are in alignment. I also understand working ports, having served as the chief engineer and the director of capital programs for the Port Authority for a decade, working to ensure our many maritime facilities in the Port of Boston were able to accomplish their economic mission and were not being measured as the financial opportunity for commercial development. Development of this site is not displacing any maritime use. It's a tremendous pragmatic solution to a menacing problem in the Port of Boston and will provide permanent economic benefits to Everett, Boston, and the surrounding region. We're also very pleased this plan does not preclude this unique location in the regional electrical grid and being utilized as a green energy hub. We're actively engaged with local energy stakeholders and enthusiastic about the site's energy potential. Finally, as the owner of the site, I do not know what happens if the site is not removed from the designated port area. We have no plans to develop it, we have no plans to remediate it, and we do not plan to invest any more money in it. It is likely to sit there idle for years to come, blocking the economic development and reputational benefits that Everett has long pursued. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Sure.
Maggie Sullivan?
Good afternoon, Chairs Feingold and Paracella, Vice Chairs Miranda and Vargas, and members of the committee. My name is Maggie Sullivan, and I am a senior attorney at the Conservation Law Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. First, I want to say that CLF appreciates the sponsors and Joint Committee's commitment to an open legislative process for a proposal that has significant ramifications for the Commonwealth's waterfronts and for transportation, pollution, and quality of life in Everett and the adjacent communities. This legislature has long recognized the importance of protecting traditional maritime uses from encroaching development. This is codified in a comprehensive set of rules and a robust process to ensure that designated port area changes are not done piecemeal, but through a sound planning process. This is also reflected in this bill, which includes a moratorium on DPA changes until a comprehensive review of current DPAs already initiated by the Healy administration is completed. But the rationale giving rise to the moratorium applies to this project too, and we urge the committee not to proceed with the bill in its current form. Spot zoning, carve-outs from zoning rules for a particular parcel or developer, is bad planning. And this bill presents all the hazards of spot zoning with few safeguards for affected communities. To be clear, CLF does not oppose Everett's aspirations for a soccer stadium, but the bill should not proceed without real answers in the following areas. Legislative climate and jobs mandates. The Commonwealth plans to put 30 gigawatts of offshore wind energy online and add about 29,700 clean energy jobs by 2030 as part of its clean energy transition. We need working ports to reach these goals. There are only 10 working ports in the state with the deep water access, industrial grade landside infrastructure, and access roads that Everett has. If we're going to shrink any of those 10, we need to make sure that port needs can be addressed elsewhere. Transportation. The stadium would be served by a transportation corridor from Broadway, Route 99 in Everett, through Sullivan Square to Rutherford Avenue and Charlestown. As others have mentioned, this corridor becomes a parking lot on a regular basis. Major transportation solutions would need to be developed and funded in order to support the stadium, but as proposed, there would be only a parking limitation, which would do nothing but increase gridlock and rideshare use. Further, the traffic congestion generated on game days will add air pollution to communities in Somerville, Everett, and Boston that already experience some of the worst air quality in the state. The absence of transportation solutions here is a major public health threat. Finally, while we appreciate efforts by Everett Mayor DeMaria to soften some of the stadium's impacts on Everett through a side deal with developers, the stadium will also affect Boston, Chelsea, Somerville, and East Cambridge. And all of these cities, in turn, have development plans that will stress the inadequate transportation infrastructure the stadium plans to rely on. All of them should be at the table in making decisions about this. The legislature should be cautious in shrinking our port footprint and undermining our clean energy goals, and make sure any stadium is one that fans can actually get to and that neighboring communities embrace without regret. The proposed bill does not achieve these goals, and so CLF opposes.
Can I ask a question? So if the transportation solutions were there, would you support the bill? I'm a little confused on, because you're talking about what you'd like to see happen, but you're saying you won't support it now unless there's transportation, but you might support it if there is transportation, so I'm kind of confused on your position.
Yeah, we oppose wholeheartedly. I mean, I think we recognize the practicalities of the situation and understand that whether we oppose or not, the bill may move forward. And if it does, we think other cities have to be at the table. We think that transportation has to be addressed more realistically and fulsomely than it has been here. And I would also add, to the point of cleanup, if I'm not mistaken, the owner of the site has the legal obligation to clean it up regardless of whether the site is removed from the DPA, regardless of whether a stadium is put there. And so, to my mind, it doesn't make much sense to include that as part of the calculus and whether a stadium is the highest use of this space.
So, the advocates say that it will have to undergo a MEPA review. So would all of those issues that you've just raised be addressed during the MEPA review?
I don't think that the question of cities being involved would necessarily be addressed. And transportation, I mean, that is regularly addressed in MEPA filings, but, would it require that the comprehensive, forward-looking type of planning that we have in mind would be included in the final project? I don't know that the MEPA review would require something that stringent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a panel now, Darlene Lobos and Chateau Green.
Good afternoon. Can I move this up? Thank you to Chairs Feingold and Paracella and Vice Chairs Miranda and Vargas and the rest of the Joint Committee on Economic Development and Emerging Technologies for this opportunity to testify to you today. My name is Darlene Lombos, and I am the president of the Greater Boston Labor Council, which represents over 100,000 workers and their families in the region, including Everett and Boston. And I'll be speaking on S2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. As you consider your decision on this particular bill, we want to share our excitement about the partnership, this new partnership that includes a written commitment from the owners and developers to utilize an all-union workforce for this building, operations, and maintenance of the proposed professional soccer stadium in Waterfront Park. This is a groundbreaking project that will meaningfully uplift hundreds of workers and their families in our region. When we build and operate with good community standards, the standards that unions fight for every day, workers win, cities win, and our communities win. Unions have set the standard for great families, not just good jobs, great family-sustaining and career pathways, build strong communities and local economies. We are thrilled unionized workers in the building trades, hospitality, security, and entertainment industries will be front and center, making this proposed stadium a reality. We all want to see this project be successful, which includes meaningful partnerships with the City of Boston. Mayor Wu has been a staunch supporter of workers and the unions that give workers the power to make real changes in our workplaces and our communities. We hope that any concerns that the City of Boston might have regarding the proposed project will be worked out with the same spirit of partnership and collaboration that this group of folks have been shown to all of our unions. Lastly, I want to thank Senator Sal DiDomenico. He has just been an incredible partner through this entire process and a friend throughout all of labor. He's a true champion in my book, so I just want to thank him publicly.
Good afternoon, chairs and committee members. My name is Chaton Green. I'm here today with Organized Labor on behalf of the Greater Boston Building Trades Unions. We would like to thank all of our allies who have and who are assisting with this process and this project. We echo Darlene's points and commit to working with all of our partners and stakeholders to make this project a win-win-win for the entire region. We are here specifically to share with this committee that the building trades unions have entered into an agreement for a project labor agreement on the construction of the stadium and also a project labor agreement on the ongoing maintenance of the stadium. We appreciate the commitment to strong labor standards for the trades and our siblings across labor, and understand the vital importance of honoring community standards of where we live and work. My career started from a project labor agreement back in 2013 with the UMass Boston Project Labor Agreement, at the time being the largest public project labor agreement. And ever since then, I was able to graduate from my apprenticeship program and become a licensed journey level sprinkler fitter. Since then, I was able to purchase a home in Boston with my wife and 2 kids and build the confidence to stay and thrive in my community. I want nothing more than for residents, minorities, women, and anyone who has been underrepresented in my community, in every community, to have the same opportunity to build a career and raise a family. Community standards represent families having a chance to make it, a chance to learn a skill and a trade, while earning a fair wage and also having access to the greatest health care in the world and a chance to retire with dignity. Thank you to all of our allies who have upheld these standards and who have worked tirelessly day in and day out to support and strengthen our communities. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to call up next Senator Sal DiDomenico.
Thank you, Chair Feingold, Chair Paracella, members of the committee. As you all know, I have filed this bill, and I have filed this bill for several reasons. And I wanted to make them clear for people here and back at home to understand why this legislation is deeply needed for my community to grow, to succeed, to continue the development that we have on our waterfront for the use of our public. And what you've heard from several folks from Everett is that our waterfront has been largely closed off for the public for decades. We have an expansive waterfront that many did not know even existed. And what we have today is an opportunity to right the wrongs of the past. Our community has been burdened by heavy industry for the entire region to benefit at the expense of my residents in the city of Everett. You have heard the industry has come in and overrun many of our pieces of land, polluted our land, polluted our water, polluted our air, and many people in that part of Everett, unfortunately, have been affected by a cancer cluster that has been there for decades because of heavy industry, who have largely packed up and left our communities and left us with these brownfields that, in my estimation, and not estimation, fact, that no one has come to our rescue to clean up these brownfields. So when you hear folks talk about making investments on our waterfront and talking about how they want to protect these assets, which I fully agree, I also wonder where they were when the time was for our community to right a wrong and clean up these brownfields. No one came to our rescue. No one was there by Everett's side to right the wrongs of what has happened to my community for decades. Now we have an opportunity to do it for ourselves with partners who are willing to come forward and invest a tremendous amount of money and resources to clean up a blighted piece of land, to put a development on this property that will have lasting impacts for my community, will have public benefits, will have open space, open up our waterfront, have water access, have transportation on our waterfront, and ensure that generations of our residents will no longer have to look at smokestacks as the gateway to our community. And it is important for us to also note that there is a tremendous amount of public engagement and process after this would hopefully be lifted. This is the first step. There is no second step without lifting a DPA. There is no second, third, fourth step without the process that we've laid out in front of you folks for legislative consideration. And it is my hope that you can see the situation that we're all in my community. The public will have plenty of opportunity to voice their views, to make suggestions. The process is very extensive, as we all know. Chapter 91, waterfront development, is in effect. We are not skirting any public process with this legislation. We are just saying, give us an opportunity to do what our community has been craving for a long, long time. Open access, waterfront access, cleaning up brownfields, and ensuring our residents have every opportunity that other communities have to enjoy their land and their city. So, you know, when I moved into the city of Everett, I didn't grow up in Everett. I grew up in Cambridge. But I chose to move to Everett and raise my family in Everett because of the community and what I saw as a place that I wanted to be a part of. And you're not going to find a more resilient community who has faced so many obstacles that were no fault of their own, that were just laid on our waterfront, on our land, and told to just deal with it because no one was speaking up. They targeted our community. and they knew that largely we weren't going to fight back because we didn't have the means to do so. We are an environmental justice community. I passed that bill to make sure that communities like my own have the opportunity to right those wrongs and speak up for themselves and have some say in what is actually happening in our community and not by other folks who have used us as a dumping ground, to be honest. And also, I will say the DPA, as it currently exists on our waterfront, is a very large DPA. We are just taking a very small section of that DPA, hopefully, out of this restricted area. There is ample space to do all the things that people are talking about on other parts of the DPA as well. So we're not taking the entire DPA away from this area. We can do both. We can clean up a dirty site, we can turn it into something beautiful for our residents, have open access for our residents, and also preserve the maritime use on other parts of this DPA. So the argument that we're taking away a DPA, in my mind, is why can't we find a solution and have both good things on our waterfront? That is a very simple argument to make and a very common sense approach to how we want to deal with cleaning up our land for our residents. So I would hope that this committee would act on this very soon. We want to start the process. We can't wait to get those smokestacks down. We can't wait to have this building that's been contaminated for decades off our waterfront and take away this dirty land that has been affecting our community in a negative way for so many years. So I implore you to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John McConga.
Hi, my name is John McConga, Executive Director of Boston Scores, a nonprofit organization providing free soccer and enrichment programs for Boston area youth. For the past 25 years, we have partnered with the Boston Public Schools to provide our programs free of charge to students and have grown to become one of the largest after-school providers in the city. Our programs reach over 1,500 youth each year, and we plan to double that number in the coming years. The New England Revolution and the Kraft family have supported Boston Scores since its inception 25 years ago. Over that time, they have supported our programs in a variety of ways. They have provided the youth in our programs with access to Gillette Stadium Field through activities such as last week's Girls and Women in Sport Clinic as part of our summer camp field trips and for game day access. The Revolution also provide us with no-cost access to the field for our flagship fundraising event called the Scores Cup. Over the past 15 years, the Scores Cup has grown to become the largest corporate charity soccer tournament in the country and has raised nearly $4 million to help keep our programs free for youth. The Revs have also supported the organization by serving in a variety of volunteer capacities, ranging from serving on our board to volunteering on our event committees. They bring their players to our programs to interact with our students. They record videos to help us recruit students. They write and record poems to inspire students to participate in our nationally recognized poetry programs. We are confident that a local stadium for the Revolution would bring multiple benefits to the community. For Boston Scores, we expect that a local stadium would deepen our relationship with the club, increase the opportunities for us to partner, and enhance our ability to serve more youth in the communities near the stadium. We support the Commonwealth removing the project parcel from the designated port area and providing the Revolution an opportunity to move forward with the next phase of their approval process for their project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Tim McKenna.
Good afternoon. Members of the committee, my name is Tim McKenna. I'm a Boston resident from Charlestown. I serve both on the board of the Charlestown Youth Soccer Association, which provides programming for over 700 children in Boston, and the Charlestown Neighborhood Council, representing several youth non-profit organizations, volunteer basis. While I provide this testimony as an individual, I offer these affiliations to provide context for my community engagement. As a resident and a fan, I'm thrilled with the possibility of this proposed development in our backyard. I believe it will elevate the sport in our city and both the region at the professional and the developmental levels. Our programs will also stand to benefit from our new neighbors, and I look forward to seeing what new partnerships we can forge. My position is shared by many of my peers who live in our town, especially those with children engaged in the sport. That does not mean that there are no legitimate concerns, many of what we've heard already, surrounding transportation, infrastructure, noise, and other potentially negative outcomes that require careful attention and mitigation. With that said, I'm here in support of this proposed legislation for the following reasons. First and foremost is the limited scope and contingency clause within the proposed legislation. And second is the directive for the review of the DPA. I think that as a hobbyist, again, following this space, I think that's long overdue. I would encourage, if there's anything that this body could do to strengthen that mandate, perhaps give a firm timetable for when those agencies need to come back with that review, I think would benefit the region at large as well. With that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Rep Ryan, testify.
Thank you very much. Chairman Parasella, Chairman Feingold, committee members, thank you for giving the opportunity to address the committee. I speak in favor of S 2692, an act relative to the economic development on the Mystic River. I first want to thank my colleagues in the Everett delegation, Senator DiDomenico, who we heard from earlier. Representative Joe McGonigal is going to submit written testimony. He's outside the building dealing with other matters, but we work as a team, so I'm here and he'll be submitting written testimony. And of course, Representative Judith Garcia. We always work collaboratively, as I just said. I also want to thank Mayor DiMaria for his openness with me through this process and his outward passion, as you saw, for the city of Everett. And to Mayor Wu for her commitment to protecting the Charlestown end of this regional question, which you're going to hear why that's important to me in a few minutes. I'm new to the city of Everett as an elected official, but I'm no stranger to the proud municipality of Everett. It's a city, like my Boston neighborhood of Charlestown, that has been fighting for respect from its larger neighbors for as long as I can remember. I recall cracking heads with the Everett Huskies and the Pope John Tigers as far back as my Pop Warner football days in the 70s and early 80s. Everett is a proud place that wears that local pride on its sleeve. My Boston neighborhood of Charlestown was very similar in those days, as well as it is today. Both are hard-scrabbled, tight-knit neighborhoods trying to reinvent themselves as heavy industry that darkened our sky and the workers who depended on these jobs slowly seeped to the burgeoning suburban office parks and industrial areas that were made possible by the emergence of the interstate highway system. This economic shift, which is akin to the Rust Belt stories of Middle America, has left the lower Mystic with only the industry that nobody else wanted, or the few businesses that are truly water dependent. Skip ahead 40 years, the need for national gas shipments still exists, but has waned. A blighted brownfield site produced by a former Monsanto chemical plant has been transformed into a world-class gaming resort. The Mystic River is cleaner than it has been in generations. The city of Everett and the neighborhood of Charlestown are beginning to gain the respect they've earned for shouldering the industrial burden of the region for the past century. We deserve this attention. The crossroads of Sullivan Square and Lower Broadway deserve this attention. We are still saddled with roads and infrastructure that was built for horse-drawn trolleys and then superhighways of the 1950s. A transformative public-private economic development project is the only way to catch up on 100 years of lost investment. Mr. Chairman, committee members, I do not take the implications of this legislation lightly. We are at a critical point in this transformation, or I wouldn't be here asking for the passage of this bill out of committee in the expediting of the removal of a relatively small, end-of-the-line piece of a designated port area. The jobs and industry created here will be new and different than what the DPA is designed to protect, but they will be transformative, as will the infrastructure needed to make this area fully realize its potential. Many good-minded people have questions as to why to expedite this process. I can assure you and the committee that over the past 2 years was just the beginning of the conversations with stakeholders, not the end. Various environmental groups have been at the table and will remain so, as they are the willing vanguards of the future promise of these shores. Labor and those who work to protect good jobs with good wages are watching and see opportunity. Transportation and major infrastructure will have to be negotiated. Everett's neighbors in Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville are watching. They will have questions. We are not all going to agree on the answers right away, but we all agree we want to see something better than what is there now. You have my commitment to continue these conversations even within an expedited process. Our ask today is to allow these conversations to continue anew in a robust fashion. And again, I ask to support Senate 2692. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Pruitt?
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the committee for their time. My name is Matthew Pruitt. I'm a resident of Charlestown. Actually, I happen to be Representative Bryan's neighbor, although I'm not sure you knew that until just now. I'm also a lifelong Revs fan. I urge the committee to move this legislation forward and ultimately pass this bill. As both a resident and a fan of the team, I believe that this stadium will be a jewel for the region, a jewel for the team, and a jewel within the league. I think it's a solid plan that will beautify the area, provide additional access to the waterfront where I can bring my daughter to, continue to raise her in the community that we love. I believe that this plan is a solid plan when it comes to transportation. The mayor referenced all the multi-modal transportation options that are currently available and ones that are being put forward, including a footbridge, additional bike lanes, the Silver Line, commuter rail stop. These things are desperately needed regardless of what type of development we put in that space, but a soccer stadium acting as an impetus for them, I think, is the best of both worlds for everything involved. I really can't express how passionate I feel about this. This effort with the Crafts and the Revs organization has been ongoing nearly 20 years. This isn't the first time that they've engaged in this process, but I do believe that this is the most public that they have ever been with it. I thank the mayor, thank Senator DiDomenico for the opportunity to put forth this public process, and I thank you all here for the time and allowing me to speak.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paula Sterite?
Good afternoon, Paula Stariti. Thank you for the opportunity to provide feedback on this important issue today, and I hope additional hearings are held in Everett and similar to what was held in the past by the Mass Gaming Commission and most recently by the DPU. I'm here today as an Everett resident who has lived in Everett for close to 40 years. I oppose this bill and any bill that names one specific company or person and limits what can be built or developed here or anywhere. I believe in competition, and limiting what this port and land can be used for will limit the benefits and opportunity to Everett and the surrounding cities. It is interesting to read and see the mayor concerned about the loss of millions of revenue, as residents have voiced their concerns for years, as he supported and pushed for the majority of commercial property to be converted to luxury residential apartments. Don't be fooled by the aerial view of the site. If you want the whole picture, I ask you to have your staff randomly take snapshots of Google Map or Google Earth to see the traffic jams on all the major roads leading in and out of Everett throughout the day. It's horrible. Everett has gone from a livable and affordable community with pride in family and community to a city that is practically unlivable, with residents dealing with daily traffic jams and daily crisis. The city has become unaffordable to the average blue-collar worker. Many seniors have been forced to make major changes in their daily lives to be able to afford to stay in Everett, and many have sadly been forced to leave. The city of Everett is 3.5 square miles, with about a third being zoned for commercial property. Years ago, Everett was a city that had a strong commercial base with businesses that offered the community good-paying jobs with a strong commercial tax base. Everett had the luxury of being ahead of its time, where you could live, work, and play. Constellation Energy is the largest taxpayer in Everett. Their taxes have gone from over $15 million a few years ago to dwindling to a few $100,000 this year. Besides tax revenue, Constellation offered good union-paying jobs with little or no demand on traffic, parking, or demand on our public safety. And like it or not, was a safety net to provide reliable energy to Massachusetts. Everett needs businesses that will offer residents good-paying jobs. The jobs at the casino and the proposed stadium are and will be low-end service jobs. We got fooled once by the Win for All campaign for the casino. We won't be fooled again with the promises of how good the stadium is for Everett. I asked this committee to allow the free market to compete for this waterfront. I do find it strange that with the state that's looking to be a leader in clean energy, the wind turbine isn't included in the discussion for the waterfront. It was good enough for Cape Cod, New Bedford, and Salem. Why not Everett? The International Energy Agency predicts that global offshore wind will become $1 trillion business by 2040. In the United States, it's projected to be $25 million business by 2030. Will a stadium come close to these numbers? If you want Everett to have a chance to be affordable and livable again, I ask you to vote no on this bill. Everett deserves better. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Emmanuel Teshi? Okay. Justin Perry?
So sorry, he's Manuel Teshi here.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Manuel Teshi. I am the president of the board of directors of Latinos Unidos in Massachusetts, based in Everett. I serve alongside Lucy Pineda, the executive director of this organization. I speak in favor of the development of a professional soccer stadium to be built in the city of Everett, and these are the reasons. Our mission at Latinos Unidos in Massachusetts is to protect and empower the Latin American community, those who live in our region. We serve the people in Everett and other cities as well. And as many of you know, our region is composed of Everett and the neighboring cities. We have a strong Latin American population. And I will be honest with you, our community lacks serious support when it comes to opportunities for our young students. Many of them are caught in circumstances where their parents work 2 or more jobs, and at times the students themselves work part-time to full-time jobs to provide for their families. This is the crude reality, and we have lost many great talents in our community because we did not open up the spaces where they could thrive. And I will say beyond any doubt, something like a state professional soccer stadium would not only provide a venue, but a real revolutionary improvement, increasing the opportunities for the development of a sports standard programs and culture that will in turn allow for our community to thrive. So I will say this is a great first step towards balancing the equity scales and providing our people with much needed investment. That'll be all.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Justin Perry?
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Perry. I'm a Charlestown resident. Today I stand before you. We talk about an exciting prospect of building a new soccer stadium and waterfront park in our community. This investment brings with it a myriad of positive impacts that extend far beyond the realm of sports. First and foremost, the new stadium will serve as a hub for community engagement and unity. Soccer has a unique ability to bring people together regardless of their background, creating a sense of camaraderie and shared passion. By providing a modern and welcoming space for fans to gather, we are fostering a stronger sense of belonging and pride for our city. Furthermore, the construction of the new stadium will stimulate economic growth, create job opportunities for our residents, From the initial planning and building phases to the ongoing operation of the stadium, this project will generate a ripple effect of economic activity in the form of new businesses, increased tourism, and job creation. Let us not forget the impact of our youth and aspiring athletes. A new stadium will provide a top-notch venue for local teams to train, compete, and be inspired by professional players. The presence of modern facility can spark interest in sports among our youth, encouraging healthy lifestyles, teamwork, and discipline. In conclusion, the benefits of building a new stadium are wide-ranging and profound. From fostering community spirit and economic growth to elevating our city profile and nurturing our youth, this investment has the potential to shape a brighter future for all of us. Let us embrace this opportunity with enthusiasm and vision, knowing that the rewards will extend far beyond the confines of the stadium walls. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
I just really want to thank people for being respectful of time. Because of this, we're allowed to get a lot of people to testify, and we want as many people to share their views, so no one has really monopolized time, and we really thank people for respecting the ability for other people to have a say. So thank you.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank committee members and the committee chair for allowing me to express my viewpoint against the stadium. I have lived in Charlestown for over 30 years. Just to let you know, we are a community of under 24,000 encompassing 1.4 miles. Currently, we have approved projects which over the next 10 years will add over 15,000 people to our population. Two of the projects are in the Sullivan Square Route 99 area. The major one, planned by the Flatley Group, will include a hotel, shops, and condos. The main access will be through Sullivan Square and Route 99. Currently, Sullivan Square is a demolition derby-like thoroughfare. At various times of the day, the traffic backs up to Medford, Main, and Bunker Hill Street. The traffic from the stadium will negatively impact our safety and quality of life. We will be held hostage in our community on event days and nights. Why build in an area with existing nightmarish traffic? And as Charlestown has a small part of the area, part of Boston, we would like to be part of the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just as an added note, for public transportation, I had to wait on the platform 30 minutes today because the Orange Line was backed up.
It's separate committee, separate hearing, but we definitely hear you.
But it is part of transportation, so it is
okay,
not
fair
reliable.
point. Duly noted. Thank you. David Toscano.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Hopefully today I can offer a fan perspective to this bill, and I'm speaking in full support of it today. My father and I have been Revolution season ticket holders since 2009. We've seen the growth of this league. It's been incredible over the time I've been involved in it. There have been record investments in teams, billion-dollar evaluations, and the development of beautiful soccer-specific stadiums in or around downtown areas. Over the last 15 years, I've watched market after market open up brand new stadiums with incredible atmospheres. Not only have they helped the teams themselves, but also their surrounding areas. Having seen success after success, I know this can be replicated here in Everett with the proposal at hand. Gillette Stadium is located 27 miles away from downtown Boston and Everett as well. At the current time, there is so much being left on the table. Boston is an incredibly diverse city, filled with many people and cultures that love the sport of soccer. Making the world's game more accessible would help unleash so much untapped potential in the area. The economic impact alone would be immense for both Everett and the greater Boston area. Interest in the sport of soccer has never been an issue. You'll see in a couple weeks, Gillette will be hosting Inter Miami, over 60,000 people, and in a few years' time, we'll sell out for 7 World Cup matches. You know, it's no secret that Major League Soccer is not the top of the game. You have European and international games as well that are much better. So a lot of casual soccer fans would rather just watch on their TV than go through the hassle of getting out to Gillette Stadium. I've spoken to many Boston soccer fans in my age demographic that say they would regularly attend games played in or around the cities, and they usually cite location and inconvenience as their biggest deterrents. Taylor Twellman, Revolution legend, has said multiple times he believes Boston would immediately become a top 5 market in the league. And, you know, imagine what this could do to the greater Boston area, Everett in particular, allowing Everett the same opportunity to grow as Assembly Row in Somerville or the Seaport in Boston, allowing soccer fans in the city the opportunity and access to support their local team more regularly. This is an amazing opportunity you guys have. There's been a track record of success in countless major American cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, St. Louis, Minnesota, to name a few. They've all benefited greatly from saying yes to similar projects, and I believe the same can be done here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Nicholas Matrano, I think we're now going to have most of our testifiers be virtual. So Nicholas Matrano.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to speak in favor very strongly. Lifelong Everett resident. My family's been here since the 50s, and, you know, growing up, it was always sort of the why not Everett type thing, looking at Somerville, Medford, these other cities that, especially now, have these developments. And finally, my kids can grow up feeling that way, seeing some development in Everett. In addition to that, I'm a soccer coach for Everett Youth Soccer. My daughter is the team that I coach. We're season ticket holders, and we just don't get to go to enough games because of its location. Obviously, that's our decision. But I think, as the previous gentleman said, the diversity that is here in Greater Boston would really thrive having the stadium up here. And ultimately, aside from the soccer aspect, just having the waterfront open and clean to the residents of Everett. The traffic has always been the traffic of Everett, going back 20 years that I've been driving. The biggest culprit there isn't what we build in Everett, it's people that just want to cut through Everett. I've always had coworkers that live in the North Shore, and to get around the Tobin Bridge, they'll cut through Everett. So I think discussing the traffic jams and claiming that it's a parking lot is kind of a moot point, and more needs to be done to emphasize that building these things will force us to have better infrastructure in place and not hold ourselves back because of the infrastructure that exists now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We have Gisela Felix, Marion Mancina, and Berta Flores as a panel.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in this meeting. My name is Gisela Felix, and I have Miriam Mancia. I will be helping her to interpret. I'm a member of, a staff member of LUMA as well, and a resident of Everett. And I'm here to testify in favor of this project with the compromise to build programs, after-school programs for our children. They need more support, especially after school, where, you know, parents are working 2 or 3 jobs because of the high rents. Children need this support activities for after school, where they can be, you know, occupied in positive, you know, activities like soccer. The city of Everett is a multicultural city with various needs. And I can say my son can be an example of the various needs that this community has. He's an 8-year-old boy who has autism spectrum with speech and developmental delays, and we don't have programs here for these children that need these type of services to help them with their development. ABA services, speech and therapy programs. We need that support for our community, our children. I know that there are many children in the city of Everett with these needs. And also more support for our business, small businesses, and organizations like our organization, Luma. We are a small organization right now. We don't have a space to help. We don't have the space to help meetings when we need. So we would like some, support in having a space where we could help our meetings for the different programs that we provide to our community. That's something like that.
Okay.
Enfoque para programas y espacios para programas para adolescentes y niños en el área de Everett.
So we need more programs and a space for programs for the children here in Everett. And I'm here in favor of this project as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay? Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. I'm gonna make sure you're all set. Al Latanzi, what's up?
Am I on?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Al Latanzi. I'm an Everett resident. I don't live too far away from the proposed site. And, I've always been pro-Everett. And what's happening to Everett, it's a changing community. I'm really happy about it. We need more economic development all the time. And with this soccer stadium coming in and other developments such as the tank farms and east of the casino, we have a lot going on. And there's going to be job opportunities. We're going to open up the waterfront. We're going to have a nice, creative entrance into our city. People are going to say, wow, this is great. We're going to clean up the environment. There's so many things happening. And with our demographics changing, I think that Central and South America is the multicultural city that we're in now. I have a lot of friends from all over the place, but mostly from South America, and we become friends. And at one time, many, many years ago, my children played soccer, and soccer was at the bottom of the list. There was other sports that we liked. Now, that's all changing. Soccer is big in our city, and I'm happy about that because all of the people that I know have children that they want to play soccer more than they want to play football and baseball. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful thing for our city. Our city is changing, and I think we need something like this. And now is a great time for it, especially, and then cleaning up our environment. I mean, the casino cleaned up a lot, and now we're going to have the power plant cleaning up. I think it's a good time to jump on and get things done, and our city will be changing for the better year after year after year. And I'm pro this bill, and I hope that it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Nick Golden. And we do have some more people that have
Hello.
signed up, and we'll call them soon as well. Nick Golden?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Feingold, Chair Parasella, Vice Chair Miranda, Vice Chair Vargas, and members of the Joint Committee. I come before you today in support of S2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. I am a resident of Wilmington, Massachusetts, and recognize that limits to some degree my authority to speak on this matter as compared to
You're actually a
Everett and Boston
constituent,
resident.
so you're okay in my book, so keep going.
There we go. Nice to see you, Senator Chair. That said, I believe the benefits of constructing a soccer stadium on this environmentally compromised and visually unappealing property vastly outweigh existing concerns. Many have spoken to the economic benefits to a stadium. However, there are human benefits to spreading access to the sport that the Commonwealth should not ignore. Soccer, compared to the traditional Big Four sports in the United States, is a global game. Men, women, and children from all walks of life, nations, colors, and creeds play soccer more than any other sport on earth. Two people can share almost nothing in common, be unable to speak the same language, but through soccer, they can build community. This is a sport that helped bring German and English soldiers together for an impromptu truce during Christmas 1914 amid the horrors of World War I. It can bridge immense, sometimes impossibly wide divides between people. The greater Boston area welcomes people from all over the world, including many who love the beautiful game. This stadium will go a long way to helping Greater Boston meet its goal to be a true global city and metro area. Building this stadium will bring people in the Commonwealth together to meet each other across cultural lines, and in this day and age, amid so much strife as a country, I think that's something we should cherish. I respect genuine concerns from residents. That said, I hope the members of the committee and leadership of both the House and Senate do not let bad faith criticism from certain non-government, non-elected, non-resident third parties kill a potentially wonderful economic and human opportunity. I would urge members of the committee not to forget the community aspect of this potential stadium and urge the committee to recommend passage.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Andrea Leary.
Well, I must say, that's a tough act to follow. What an impassioned speech. So thank you, Nick. I appreciated that as well. Chairman Feingold, Chairman Parasella, Vice Chair Miranda, Vice Chair Vargas, and committee members. Thank you for your time today to provide comments on Senate Bill number 2692, an act relative to economic development on the Mystic River. My name is Andrea Leary, and I'm the Executive Director of the Lower Mystic Transportation Management Association. Transportation Management Associations, also known generically as TMAs, work to reduce single-occupant vehicle trips by increasing sustainable transportation options for people who live and work in the TMA service areas. Members of TMAs include businesses, developers, municipalities, institutions, and community groups. I am speaking today in favor of passage of Senate Bill 2692. The Lower Mystic TMA has worked for the last several years with the City of Everett, the City of Boston, and Encore Boston Harbor to promote alternatives to drive-alone commuting within and between communities in the Lower Mystic River Basin. We are in the process of expanding and rebranding the current Encore Neighborhood Runner Shuttle service as the Lower Mystic Link Shuttle that will serve not only Everett, but will make a vital connection between Sullivan Square, the commuter rail, and Silver Line in Chelsea. In the next few years, we are looking to expand the Lower Mystic Link system with a route that will serve Charlestown neighborhoods, as well as a second Everett shuttle. We are also working with Encore to create a cost-effective van pool program for their employees and for other employees in the area that are traveling longer distances that are not readily accessible by public transportation. We are promoting and expanding access to bike share opportunities and rewarding both residents and employees who choose to commute by bike. Currently, Encore provides a water shuttle from the resort to a variety of locations in the Boston Harbor. The removal of the Constellation Power Plant site designated port area will allow for another partner in the area to support our transportation demand management initiatives and will help us to continue to achieve our goal of reducing traffic congestion and enhancing air quality in the area, and will provide the opportunity for expanded access to water transportation for people who live and work in the Lower Mystic Basin. In closing, I'd like to urge you to pass Senate 2692, and I would like to thank you all again for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for your testimony. We have a father and son team, Paulo Oliveria and Cristiano Oliveria.
Hi, how are you? Hi, my name's Cristiano Oliveira. I'm here with my dad. I'm from Somerville, Massachusetts. I played for the Revolution second team and the under 16 for the national team, and I just wanted to state a couple of reasons about why I think it would be beneficial to build a stadium in Everett. My first reason would be that Everett's proximity to Boston, I think this could attract a large fan base and make it convenient for supporters to attend a match. This would increase attendance and revenue for the team. Leading into my next point, with building a stadium in Everett, this would contribute to economic growth in the area. This would create jobs, and the stadium itself could attract visitors and stimulate local businesses such as restaurants and shops to match day. The president of a stadium would foster community engagement and pride in Everett. The Revolution could establish partnerships with local organizations and schools, organize community events, and provide opportunities for residents to participate in sports and recreation programs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. John Prieto? John, you're muted.
Sorry, I apologize for muting this. Well, yeah, thank you very much. I was asked if I would be willing to speak or testify by a public official in Everett, in part because our firm, we're in the development business, built a project on the Malden River in Medford, which includes a 10-acre park. And it was a brownfield site, and the park has turned out wonderfully well. And each day there are runners, there are bikers, there are walkers, there's rowers. Tufts University has a boathouse here, there's wetlands, there are birders. And the point of all that is the same kind of park, I think, can be built as part of this development, assuming the development proceeds. And although the park itself is obviously secondary to other aspects of the project, it will benefit the city of Everett, the cities of Chelsea, Charlestown, Somerville, et cetera. And so one should not forget that opportunity. And as we've seen today, I think there'll be great public input in the park, and the hope and the plan is it will turn out to be an excellent part of this overall project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Wendy Chan? Wendy?
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm here. Hi. Thank you for allowing me the time today to share some thoughts that I have in regards to this bill that is being considered. As a resident of Everett first and Revolution season ticket holder second, we look forward to having a soccer-specific stadium built in our city. Being able to enjoy soccer matches within the greater Boston area is extremely important for residents of the city and all New England soccer fans. As it currently stands, being a participating New England Revs fan requires you to have your own form of transportation to the site. With the stadium being built so close to the city of Boston, the enjoyment of soccer can be opened up to all. And this goes back to a previous fan's recent comments saying that the location currently takes away most people's ability to enjoy the games, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. But by the stadium being built in Everett, you're allowing that ability to choose whether or not they go to the games back to the community, not take away their ability to go. For the city of Everett, the additional jobs and additional funds that would be created are exciting and needed for the future. The additional funding that would be brought into the city could allow further investment into the city's transportation infrastructure. And this goes to certain individual that was opposed to the project due to the current transportation issue. These issues won't just solve themselves without the funding, and simply leaving this piece of land undeveloped certainly doesn't help those issues being resolved either. We look forward to learning more about the strategies for transporting fans safely to and from the stadium and the improvements in transportation for pedestrians to the MBTA stations in the area. As residents of the city, that would be our only main concern. And of course, with the stadium being built and the funding being poured into the city, I would assume that would resolve itself as well. Finally, the plan to treat the contaminated land and replace that massive eyesore with a waterfront park as part of the stadium project provides the public with a new area of the city we are expecting to enjoy throughout the year. And as a current cancer patient, I would love to see the city use those funding to treat the contaminated land that could potentially cause harm, not just my generation, but for generations to come. So if our only concern is just some traffic and maybe other cities not benefiting from funding from the Crafts family, I would just implore you to just think of that. Just protect, our future generations from this contaminant land,
Thank you, Wendy.
a lost space for them to play in. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren Costa. What's that? Okay. Antonio Alcaron Duarte.
Hello. Okay. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, how are you doing today? My name is Antonio Alcaron Duarte. I'm an Everett resident. I do believe that Everett's a multicultural city now, and soccer is a big thing now for young adults, and I do believe that it's going to be a big thing here in Everett. I'm strongly supporting it, and we're bringing a lot of revenue to the city. And I own a restaurant right here in Everett also, and it will definitely be a big impact, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty good for the city.
Okay. Thank you.
In favor of it? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Helen Quash, am I pronouncing that right?
Hello, hi, good afternoon. Yes, that's me, Helen Quach. I'm here because I was asked by Tom from the city of Everett to give a short testimony. So I am president of the Living Road Dragon Boat team. We are located in the River Green Park in Everett, and we love the River Green Park, and that's a totally new space to the city of Everett. And something like this has really benefited the city and the residents, and the green space for all the students, the kids. They have something to do now, and then it's like improved the environment in the city of Everett by having more green space. And I believe I'm in support of this bill because I believe that this project will do the same. It would improve the city. It will give more green space for the residents. To echo everybody else, it would give economic opportunities for the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Joshua DaCosta.
Hello. Thank you for holding this meeting. This is something I've been waiting for 16 years as a Revolution season ticket member. The exact constituency or the exact folks that Brian Bolello was alluding to earlier is me. I'm a resident of Boston, active in my local community. I do not have a car. I get along with public transportation and in general pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And so it's really difficult for myself to get to Gillette Stadium. I often have to hitch rides with friends who are going, if they are going. Oftentimes that leads to me missing games. Also, as a local member of my Democratic Ward Committee, I can understand how these public-private partnerships can be detrimental and ultimately can lead to worse off situations. I've seen in the past in other sports towns how stadiums have been funded by public tax dollars, and I'm really happy to see that this situation is not that. Much like others have said, the land isn't really suitable for much else there. It's pretty polluted, it's pretty destroyed. Housing wouldn't be an option here, and so I fully support the variety of entertainment that would come along with a soccer stadium, and look forward to riding my bicycle, taking the Orange Line, taking the Silver Line, whatever options are available to me that aren't a vehicle. Thank you for holding this meeting.
Thank you, Josh. Arnev Surkanth? Sorry about the name.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, I'm Arnav. I'm a longtime Boston area resident. I've been living here almost all my life, and I think one thing most people have mentioned, there's a lot of economic activity opportunities here, since we're going to be able to get, I mean, personally, I'm about 24 years old. A lot of my friends around my age, people in their 20s, they don't really see a good reason to go to Everett, right? It's pretty hard to get to without great transit. Most of the people I know, they don't own cars. And so I think building a stadium and some sort of economic development, some sort of commercial zoning, kind of repairing this old dilapidated land that's just kind of been sitting there unused into something that's similar to what was done with the Encore would be able to drive a lot more economic and people to go to Everett, support these local businesses in Everett, and drive activity into a different city. In addition, personally, I spent the last year living in Southern California and LA before I moved back, and I attended a lot of LAFC soccer games. And recently, I think they joined the league about 8 years ago. They built a stadium which was accessible by public transit. Previously in LA, there'd been a team called the LA Galaxy, and their stadium was pretty far out in the suburbs, not accessible by transit. And so to a lot of people I talked to there, they found that with a new stadium accessible by transit, it generated a very different community, and a lot of people who were usually unable to access these games, unable to access this sort of community engagement at these soccer games. Like previously people had mentioned, it's somewhere where people from all different walks of life, whatever race you are, even if you don't speak the language, whatever economic background you are, we can come together and enjoy the sport together. So it creates a large community environment. And so they found that these games being accessible to transit made it much more diverse and attracted a lot of people, and especially a lot of the younger crowd. A lot of people I talked to in Boston, they love soccer, but they'd rather just watch a game on their TV instead of driving all the way to Gillette. Especially most of these people, they don't even have cars. And so I think having a stadium closely accessible to transit would just be such a great benefit to both the communities in Everett and the surrounding areas, as well as all the citizens of Everett, the citizens of the surrounding areas, and the local business owners there.
Thank you. Thank you, Arnev. Roberto Vasquez. Roberto?
How you doing? Thank you. Yep. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this legislation. My name is Roberto Velasquez, born and raised in Everett, class of 05, and I now have the pleasure of working for the city of Everett for 8 years under Mayor DeMaria and his lead. And thanks to the mayor, I've had the pleasure of working for the city that raised me. Currently, in my role, I work for the city as the Assistant Director of Youth Development Workforce, and prior to that, I worked in another department, our Everett Adult Learning Center, where we provided ESL classes for those in our community and surrounding communities. These English classes help our immigrant residents gain enough confidence to better their English speaking level and search for better workforce opportunity. I've seen hundreds of Everett residents, adults that work from 5 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. at night to go take ESL classes to help better themselves and find opportunities. Now working with the youth and helping provide invaluable work experience, seeing them take their salary and help their families pay bills that are behind on is very touching. The advantage of this economic development on Mystic River will bring so much more to the surrounding communities, not only with just the workforce opportunity that can help sustain family incomes in our communities that have been stated by many of these constituents that we've heard from, but an opportunity to beautify our waterfronts that are in our backyards for families to enjoy. Me, myself, being first generation Hispanic American, I would love to see a day where I can take my son and my father to this beautiful space in the waterfronts and let my father talk to us about how much the community has changed since he's come back in the early 80s to Mass. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I appreciate the support.
Thank you, Roberto. Neil Kinnan? Neil? No? Okay. So we have 3 people in person. Matt Puglisi? If I know better, you must be a Revs fan.
Thank you so much for the time this afternoon, and I apologize for coming before you a bit underdressed. So, my name is Matthew. I actually live south of 495. I'm a resident of Seekonk, and currently it takes me about 30 to 40 minutes door to door to get to Gillette Stadium. I've been a Revolution season ticket holder since 2014. This stadium would make my game days a little bit differently. It would make them a little bit longer, but I couldn't be more in support of this bill and of this project. I went to my first Revs game in 2005. I was a high schooler, and I was living in New Hampshire at the time. It took me 2 hours to get to games, but me and my friends went as often as we possibly could. In 2014, I was lucky enough to move down to Providence, Rhode Island, where my Revs fandom took on a completely different turn. I became the president of one of the independent supporter groups for the New England Revolution, and through our work, we would do charitable initiatives to raise money for different causes. We primarily focused on trying to build an atmosphere and create grassroots support for the Revs, and it's something that has been a passion of mine for a very long time. The thing that's been missing for the entirety of my Revs fandom and for the fans that have been around since 1994 and 1995 when the team was announced is its own stadium, is its own home to call its own. And other fans have come before you today to talk about what it would mean for the league and what it would mean for the area. This wouldn't just become the A jewel in the crown of MLS. A stadium in Boston would become the crown jewel for the league. Endless amount of events, endless amounts of investment, and the amount that it would mean to the fans is immeasurable. There are people who have watched proposal after site after project fall through and fall apart, only to stand by the team and just hope that someday we can get it done. We have never felt as hopeful as we have with this project. And as one of the fellow fans testified earlier, I met my wife going to Revs games. We now have a 4-year-old daughter, and the dream is to be able to take the train up from Providence and spend the day in Boston, go to a game with her, and have her get that same experience and that same sort of feeling that I still get when I go to games. And as my time is running up tonight, I'll actually be in the stands. The Revs are going to be taking on Club America from Mexico. They are the most popular team, not in Mexico, in North America. Okay. Just imagine, if you would, what that would look like if that was taking place in a stadium in Everett.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wig Zamor?
Yep. I'm a Z, so I'm happy going at the end of the line.
I wasn't done on purpose, you know. So.
My name's Wig Zamor. I've got a couple pages of notes here. I live in Somerville. I'm strongly in favor of this on one condition, and that is that a full transit capacity study be done. I'm most well known as a grassroots activist. I've been on the MBTA Rider Oversight Committee, which is a small state agency, for 20 years, on the Massport CAC for 15 years, also a small state agency. I co-founded the Mystic View Task Force in Somerville, which argued for dense transit-oriented development at Assembly Square instead of big boxes and parking lots, and succeeded in that, including in bringing the first New Orange Line station in many decades. I also co-founded STEP, which led the argument for the 2 Green Line branches in Somerville. I started with the Research Universities, a group that focuses on ultrafine particles and noise from transportation. So I am strongly in favor of this, but I would like the transit capacity issues to be studied thoroughly. I think eventually this may end up with 40,000 seats and obviously be multi-purpose. I do think what really should be investigated that has not been looked at is use of the Grand Junction. That's how all the locomotives get to the Boston Engine Terminal in Somerville from both the north and the south sides. And in combination with the Green Line, that could form an urban ring that had steel wheels on steel rail and the capacity of any light rail or subway system in eastern Massachusetts. That I think should be a condition of MEPA plus Chapter 91 review. Let me see, I've got just a couple other notes and a little bit of time left. The lower Mystic to Lynn has the most challenged environmental justice population, mostly immigrants, mostly recent immigrants, in eastern Massachusetts. And it deserves the kind of attention to steel wheel on steel rail, electrified transit that Boston has had for a very long time, that Cambridge got with the Red Line, and that Somerville got a little of with the Green Line, with which we are deliriously happy. It's not opulent, but it's terrific, and especially its connection with the bike and ped paths. Transportation has 4 times the climate impact in the US of all housing put together, and 4 times the climate impact of all commercial properties put together. We've got to electrify mass transit first. You can't do this project on buses or BRT. It's not enough capacity and in the time allowable. Thank you so much for your attention.
We have Stat Smith.
Thank you, Chairman Feingold, Chairman Parasella, esteemed members of the committee. I'm a lifelong resident of Everett. I feel this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to clean up some polluted land and open up the waterway, and I'll be brief with those remarks. Once again, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have someone, not the federal government, not the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to come in here and spend the money to clean up this polluted site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. John Taco? Virtual?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for holding this hearing. My name is John Taco, managing partner at V10 Development. Started working in Everett over 12 years ago as part of the Wynn Resorts development, led our community relations effort in outreach in a number of different communities and neighboring surrounding communities. I have no doubt understanding that process, that the community outreach that will be involved through this process after your approval will be in depth and will be significant. And I have full faith in the team that will be tasked to do it, that will be out there in the communities talking, receiving feedback. So I look forward to engaging in that process. I'm wholeheartedly in support. Currently, I'm in development, various stages of development and completion of 1,300 residential housing units in Everett. I think this would be a tremendous boost to the area, to the community, to the residents. Will provide an amazing balance coming up Broadway to clean up the old contaminated area on the right as you're coming out of Charlestown and reclaiming it and balancing it with the new and exciting entertainment zone on the left. So I commend the mayor, the legislative team, Senator DiDomenico, Representative Ryan McGonigal. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I encourage you to pass this and move this bill forward. Thank you.
Okay, we're about done. I know Senator DiDomenico has one last thing he wants to bring up. I'll let him, as a courtesy, come up and present to us, and then we will be done with our presentations.
Thank you, Chief. I won't even sit down because I'll be quick.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows, especially the committee itself and the legislature as a whole, know that the engagement that we have done with the environmental groups has been robust. They were brought to the table at the initial meeting at the site, Michigan Watershed Association. We brought Boston Harbor Now to the table, and we also brought Conservation Law Foundation to the table. Each one of those groups was brought together to put their ideas and their views on the table. Some chose to, some chose not to, but they were all allowed to do that. Some got a lot of things that they wanted in a benefits agreement that they negotiated, and then others, when they didn't get what they wanted at the end, walked away from the table. So I want to implore all of you, and you understand that the outreach in the environmental community was done in a very thorough way. And they all had an opportunity to express their desires, and I want to just make sure that you all know that some chose not to at the very end. And because of that, you might hear a different story about their support or not support for this project. So I just wanted to put that on the table and make that clear to everyone here, publicly, and also throughout the legislature as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this concludes our hearing. The important thing to note is that we will still accept written testimony. We want to hear from anybody who didn't have the opportunity that wanted to testify. We are absolutely still interested in hearing from anyone that would want to add input to this. So I want to thank my vice chair for staying, and also my chair and Representative Diggs as well for this hearing. Anything further? Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.